Hi, my name is Janice Johnson, and my project is Protection and Preparation, a Climate Change Analysis. This project specifically speaks to what protections are there currently for environmental refugees, and should more be done to protect them. That's what I hope to explore. So I hypothesize that there should be more done to protect the environmental refugees under international law, because the current protections for political refugees will not effectively or adequately protect environmental refugees. And so specifically, I understand that climate change will interact at all scales with other trends in global environment, and natural resources can become scarce in these times, including water, soil, air. These types of things can become polluted. This kind of devastation can create the displacement of people, as well as basically a lack and the mass migration of people. So I decided that I was going to actually compare and define environmental refugees as people who have been forced to leave their traditional habitat, temporarily or permanently, because of a marked environmental disruption. And I chose this definition because it was actually chosen by the United Nations Environmental Program, and that was actually one of the few definitions that have been operationalized and agreed upon internationally. I also decided to define a refugee as someone who is owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for nationality, race, religion, etc. And so we'll talk more about this definition later. In relation to these is the manner in which they will be measured. So the political refugee law, I wanted to learn what was included and what was not included. For the state of environmental refugee law, I wanted to also learn what was included and what was not included. And then taking those comparatively, what is included in political refugee law that is not necessarily applicable to environmental refugee law, and vice versa. And so really we learned that since states are responsible for protecting the fundamental human rights of their citizens, when they're unwilling or unable to actually do so, individuals suffer and they seek asylum in another country. At this point, the international community really involves itself to ensure the safety and protection of these people. With that, those provisions are specifically made for political refugees. In political refugee law, these are the only type of refugees that are defined for these protections. So even if there were an environmental catastrophe where people lost lives, lost land, lost their ability to care for themselves, their state was unable to do so because of this environmental catastrophe, they still would not be protected under refugee law, because they do not specifically speak to environmental refugees. So now we know there's no current legal obligation of UN member states to offer protection to people who have been forced to leave their traditional habitat temporarily or permanently because of a marked environmental disruption. But we know that only the human rights obligations of these states is to provide for an environmental context that is specifically speaking to a sustained right to human health and things that are more preventative rather than reactive. And so this project specifically spoke to reactive measures in which people could be protected. And so what you should know is that currently the executive of the UN Environmental Program, Klaus Tofert, he declared that environmental refugees could definitely double as to 50 million in just 8 years. And this really is saying a lot, because it means that he's in a position where he is one of the people, as well as others, who have acknowledged that environmental refugees is an issue, even though they're not adequately being covered under international law. So what you should know is that there currently is an initiative called the Nansen Conference, and the Nansen is named after actually the first chancellor for the UN, and this was a pioneer in climate change and understanding Arctic life. And so this is specifically a conference that will be more reactive in dealing with environmental refugees and creating a regime that will specifically speak to that. This was worked on, however, has not been implemented and is not international law as of yet. So obviously we learned the role of global governance and the status of political and environmental refugees. And we now understand political refugee law under the United Nations Commission on Rights for Refugees. And we know that it does not offer any protections for people who have been forced to leave because of their traditional habitats, have been basically wiped out. So hopefully in the future, the near future, we will continue to have increased protections and a regime that will effectively protect and prepare people for climate change. So thank you.